Hi, I'm Tony. After talking about making a video for a while now, I've finally gotten around to it. Please excuse the poor quality. I'm using a webcam I purchased about 3 years ago for 20 bucks. I do plan on purchasing a new one on Friday as well as some better video editing software, so that should be good. I'm not going to be discussing what I originally planned for my first video, which is my political ideology. Instead, I'll be talking about a few comics as well as Stargate Universe SGU, which will get a little political anyway because of recent events in the fan community, and that'll be in the second part of this video. I want to start with telling everybody Happy Avengers Day. It is Wednesday, New Comic Book Day, and the heroic age of Marvel has begun, and it all starts here, and I think everybody needs to celebrate Avengers Day by going to their local friendly neighborhood comic book shop and picking up Avengers #1. As for my reviews, I'm going to start with Cold Space, which is a science fiction space adventure comic distributed by Boom Studios, starring a space outlaw character named Mulberry, who is very much a Samuel Jackson style character, which is no surprise seeing as Samuel Jackson is one of the writers of this comic. It was a fun read, and I highly recommend it. It starts off in space on Mulberry's starship, where he's having an altercation with some space cops, if you will. This altercation causes damage to his vessel, which in turn leads him to crash landing on a desert. Outside of a desert, old western style town. The beginning of the comic is really great. I really enjoyed the introduction of the character Mulberry. It was funny, it was smart, it was very much in the flavor of Samuel Jackson. When they got to the desert town, it felt a little rushed, which I can understand. It's the first issue of the comic. Sometimes you gotta rush a few things and go through a few things rather quickly so you can introduce characters. You know, the main character that they wanted to introduce and they wanted people to understand the flavor of was Mulberry, and then they had these other characters, these additional characters, and they needed to introduce, but they didn't need to completely focus on. My main disappointment was when I picked it up, I thought it was going to be a monthly ongoing, but instead I find it says 1 of 4 on the comic, which means it's just a 4-issue mini-series. But I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, if it does well enough, it can be an ongoing monthly, which would be great because we don't have enough space adventure or science fiction comics that are original out there. Most of them are Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, Marvel, DC, whatever. I think that we do definitely need some more independent, more creator-owned, original ideas for science fiction out there, and this is one of the few ideas out there that's original. So I completely give it a thumbs up, and I hope it does well, and I'll continue reading, and I'll continue letting you guys know what I think of it. It sure got dark quick in this video. Now the second comic I'm going to review is a comic that I've been waiting for a while, and if you know me, then you know I've been waiting for this for a while, and if you follow me on Twitter, then you know that I'll be reviewing this. I was getting a little worried because Dynamite Entertainment didn't have an actual day of this month that it was coming out, so I was slightly afraid that it might have been pushed back or not even coming out because they haven't released Stargate numbers 0, which was supposed to be released on October 2009, and it's still open for pre-order, which doesn't make sense. But it's finally come out. Stargate, Vala Mal Doran. I saw it in my pool and I was completely excited, and I went home and I read it so that I could review it on this video. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. I've got my qualms, but there are some things that are great about it. I'm going to start with my issues first, and then I'll go to the things that I think are awesome. My first issue, you don't really see the Stargate used. In fact, there's not a scene in there where you see the Stargate. Of course, it's on the front cover, as you just saw, but it's not actually used. They use ships. My second qualm is they introduced a lot more aliens, a lot more humanoid but clearly not human aliens, which is fine. In the first couple of pages, we're introduced to a lizard-like species that is green and has a long tail and also is apparently a shapeshifter. And in Stargate SG-1, we were introduced to a few different types of aliens, like the lizard-like Sarakan and Unas and the insect-like Ritu. There are also plenty of aliens that we don't know about. For instance, the strange advanced ship in Grace that took the crew of the Prometheus hostage. Just many others that we've seen. So I'm not knocking introducing new species. That's perfectly fine, especially when you're a comic. It's completely understandable. But my main issue is on the level that they do it. The Later on in the comic, Vala goes to this tavern, and there are many different types of aliens. And it reminds me a lot of Mos Eisley from Star Wars. And it has a very Star Warsian feel to it. But then they get a little ridiculous. There is a tiger-like humanoid alien, tail and all, named Tigerman. There's a little bit of a funny introduction with him. She calls him the Tiger Man, and apparently Tigerman is actually his surname, and that's funny and all, but I don't know how it feels in the Star Wars universe. Or, I know how it feels in the Star Wars universe. I don't know how it feels in the Stargate universe. It feels a little out of place. I'm gonna give it a shot. I'll let it slide. I'll let it go. I won't dwell too much on it. Maybe the creators wanted this from the comic. Maybe they wanted to do this in the show on a higher level, but they couldn't. It just seems odd that all of these aliens existed out there and the Tauri have no notice or knowledge of them, especially now that they deal with Vala Mal Doran in SG-1, and the fact that apparently these species have very much knowledge of the Goa'uld, but the Goa'uld never talk about them, nor does Teal'c or any others. But I'm going to give it a shot. It still was a fun read, and one of the main things that I will give it is the writer is fantastic portraying Vala Mal Doran. He clearly did his research into the character, and I don't know if he talked to Claudia Black, I don't know if he talked to the other writers of the show about it, but he does a fantastic job. And if you're a Vala Mal Doran fan, and more importantly, if you're a Claudia Black fan, I highly, highly, highly suggest picking this up. I read it, and it was Vala. There's no question about it. The writer was portraying Vala the way Vala should have been portrayed, and she's funny. She's just everything about the character is in this comic. So if you are a Vala fan, if you're a Stargate fan, if you're a Star Wars fan, go ahead and pick it up. It was a fun read, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the issues, and this is really making me pumped to read Stargate SG-1 Season 11 and Stargate Atlantis Season 6, as well as Stargate Daniel Jackson, which should be coming out in June. So I will continue giving you a review of these comics, especially the Stargate comics. I will try and put up a review every single time a new Stargate comic comes out, so you can look forward to those if you want to. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter as Jaffa Lycosa. I will have the link in the video. So I hope you enjoyed these reviews, and stay tuned for the second part where I talk about SGU. Thanks.